Start checking, my friends. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Shay. It's February the 1st and we are going to start the reading vlogs of the month. So this month I am playing a game with my book club and it's a Chutes and Ladders style game. The spaces on the board are either free reading or letters of the alphabet. Whatever letter of the alphabet you land on, you have to read a book that starts with that letter, or the first or last name of the author starts with that letter. And the goal is to make as long of a string of letters as you possibly can, and then the string of letters corresponds to points, and whichever team gets the most points wins the challenge. Okay, so I am in a team. I love it. I will link it down below, the book club and everything and all of those details if you are interested in joining. It's a lot of fun. It's a great community over there. So basically we roll a dice, we land on a letter, and say I land on W. Well, in order to get points for that W, I also have to get all the way from A to W. So if I roll a W, that's really bad because I don't think I can read enough books to get to W. So it's really just, it's a moot point. Anyway, you'll see throughout the month as we play the game and kind of how it goes. So last night I stayed up till midnight and I rolled the dice. I will cue the video here. I am very tired, but it is time to roll for this game. Okay, I've got my dice. 1. I am moving very fast these days, and that will be for rereading. Perfect. Okay, so I am moving, like I said, very fast around this board, but this is a great space that I landed on because it's free reading, and so I can pick whichever letter of the alphabet that I want. And of course, in order to get points, we have to start with the letter A. So A was the letter I'm going to start with. I have to find a book that starts with that letter, or an author whose first or last name starts with an A, which is not very difficult. The problem is the books that I had out of my jars, that I pulled out of my jars, I could not get a hold of any of those books. Plenty of them would have fit A, but I can't get a hold of them. However, I am trying to, in 2025, continue to read down series. I mean, that is my goal in 2025. That is like, this is what I am trying to do. And so, Clown in a Cornfield 3 by Adam A. Césaire does count for this prompt, and I am going to be reading this book. Now, I read Clown in a Cornfield 2 and just thought it was okay. I've heard a lot of people DNF the third one. I don't know if Adam Césaire, and I probably should have researched this, if he intended to write a second and third book in the series, or if because of the popularity of book 1, he felt like he could just continue on in the series. I'm not sure what came first. However, we'll kind of see how this goes. I'm only like 10% in, and I'm kind of confused about what's going on, to be honest, but I'll pop back in when I know more. If you don't know what Clown in a Cornfield is about, it is a YA horror where the first book is these clowns basically come and massacre a whole bunch of teenagers in a cornfield, and there is obviously going to be some kind of reasoning behind it, but that's the mystery. That's what we're trying to figure out as the book goes on. I do generally like the characters in this book. I'm not a big YA fan, but I like the characters in this book. But I'm going to continue reading, and I will check back in when I'm further into the book or I have differing thoughts. Okay, let's chat about Clown in a Cornfield 3, The Church of Friendo Lives. I finished this. I did go back and look to see if it was intentionally meant to be a trilogy, and it was not. So I do believe that some authors, because of success, let series go on too long, or they revive series after the fact just to try to get more money. I mean, that is the sad fact of it. But I do think that this suffered from that this should not have been a trilogy, because overall, like, I enjoyed it. I almost thought for a minute that I was going to DNF it because I thought it was going in the direction of another popular YA mystery thriller book, where I DNF'd the third one in that series because I didn't like where the character was going. And so this had similar vibes to that third book in there, but it went in a different direction, which I was glad of. However, again, the absurdity of The Clown in the Cornfield anyway is it's just absurd. But this one, it was just lasted a little bit too long. I will say that this is a very gory series, of course, because it's a slasher. So just be mindful of trigger warnings and that going in if you do decide to read this series. But I was missing some of my beloved characters that I saw in books 1 and 2. We get splashes, but we don't get a lot of them. And so that dinged the book a little bit for me. But it is, you know, absurd. But let's go ahead and get looking at what I rolled next. Okay, I am on roll number 2. 6. Oh. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So F. Fantastic. Okay, so I landed on F. So this was such an interesting thing. I had something on my TBR, which was, I can't remember of it now, by Peter Flannery, Battle Mage, that I could have read that I pulled out of my jars. However, like, I just don't know if my mind is in the thought process that I'm going to listen to a 34-hour audiobook. My mind is just not there. I'm kind of just, I'm not burning out, but I'm kind of just I wasn't in the mood to read that. And then I was like, well, is there another sequel that I can pull out that has F? None that are currently out that I can find. So my next goal is, of course, to read my own TBR. And so I was like, what is on my own TBR that I have that starts with an F? I had a few options, but what I wound up doing, because I didn't want to start another series, is I picked up Matthew Perry, Friends, Lovers, and The Big Terrible Thing. I got this a few years ago. My mother-in-law brought it for me for Christmas. I have seen a lot of Friends. I haven't seen all of Friends, but I do enjoy that show, and she brought this for me, and I have been meaning to read it for quite some time, and I've only read about 10% of it so far, but it's very tragic, just the first 10% I read, because he's talking about how his life was saved and all of these things, and of course we know that now he has tragically passed away. And so it is kind of, you know, tragic to be reading this, him talking about his journey through addiction and how he survived it, to know now what has happened to him now. So it'll be an interesting read. I don't read a lot of memoirs or nonfiction, but this is one that I definitely was looking forward to picking up, and so I'm going to read it. The audiobook is narrated by him himself, and I'm enjoying my time. I'm going to continue to read this, and I will check back in probably when I get done, because the book is a little short thing. So I'll see you then. Alright, so I have finished Friends, Lovers, and The Big Terrible Thing, and I think reading this now after he's passed away has been very tragic, as I said before. I did get a little confused in here because he does time hop a lot, and so sometimes we would be in the past and sometimes we would be in the present, and it was very difficult to discern what timeline he was in, because he has been in rehab in and out over like 15 times, and so it was very heartbreaking to hear about his addictions. And I don't have any way to compare myself to his addictions. The only addiction that I've had is cigarettes, and he actually does talk about his cigarette addiction in here. I smoked cigarettes for 10 years, and it was very, very difficult to quit. I had periods where I would quit, I would start back, I would quit, I would start back. And that's kind of the life of an addict, regardless of what substance you're addicted to. I'm happy to report that I have not put a cigarette in my mouth in 3 years, and I don't expect me to ever go back there, but it's still hard, it's still difficult. And if you want to know if I still crave a cigarette, I do. I still believe that if I was told I had 2 weeks to live tomorrow, I'd probably pick the habit back up. It's just very interesting about reading about his addictions and knowing what he says in here, and then knowing how he died. He died of basically ketamine, and he talks about ketamine in here and how he used it for psychotherapy, but it was not the drug for him. He did not like the way ketamine made him feel, and just if he only knew then what we know now, I feel that is just so sad. And he talks about how he would be dead if it wasn't for certain people, and it's just very tragic reading about this now that we know that he has passed away. I do find it very interesting that majority of his life he was living in some form of sobriety house, or he was in rehab. He was actually in rehab or in sobriety houses, having to be transported to the friend set to act and then go back. And so that was very interesting to me. He lived decades of his life this way, and I just cannot imagine the pain of having to live your life this way. And addiction is real. So if you have an addiction, I would just reach out. And as he said, he's always said, tell somebody, tell the truth, because it can help you out. So I don't rate memoirs or nonfiction books. I try not to anyway. How can I rate somebody's life experience? I can't. So I overall really just got a lot out of this though. However, so I did enjoy this, if you can call it enjoying. Then I went on to roll number 3. Okay, I was on F. Here's my third roll. It is going to be 30. Y'all, I'm getting kind of lucky in this game. I don't know how. 1, 2, 3. Another free reading spot. Fantastic. I landed on another free space, which is fantastic for me and my team because I already have A, and now for free space, I need to read the next letter in the alphabet to get 2 points, and so that will be B. So the way this game goes is you're trying to string as many alphabet letters together in a sequential sequence. So right now I have A and I have F. I can't get any points for F unless I read B, C, D, and E. Then I can string from A to F. But now I'm going to have A and B, so that'll give my team 2 points. For B, I'm going to go back to the jars and read Into the Labyrinth by John Bierce, which I picked out of my jars for owned books, and it's a short-ish book. I have the audio book, the pack with the first and the second book, and I'm excited to dive in. It is a series, quite a long series, I think 7 books, but they're rather short, I believe. This is a YA series, and I'm about 10% into the first book, but this is a YA series that focuses, of course, on this young boy. He's in a magic school, and everybody else, you know, has their magic pretty readily available to them, and he is having difficulty calling on his magic, or he does not know what his affinity is for his magic. And because of this, because of where he's from, he is getting bullied. And so we are following him as he kind of figures out what his magic is, and we're gonna go from there. And I'm liking it so far. I'm not very far in, just 10%, but I'm looking forward to continuing on and seeing what is in store for me with this book. This is a self-published series, and we love self-pub here over on this channel, and I will pop back in when probably I finish the book. So I finished Into the Labyrinth, and this reminded me more of a middle grade story than a YA story. I liked it. I didn't love it. So this book is a little over 200 pages, and it just reminded me of like Percy Jackson, or I'm just like where things are it appears things are going to be episodic, and it's just like this adventure. And so just a short little adventure tale reminds me more middle grade, even the maturity of the characters, even though they're supposed to be more young adult. I will continue on with book 2. I gave this book 3 stars. I will continue on with book 2 to see if I like it more. If I don't, and the series continues to be about 3 stars, I will probably DNF the series in the future. So then it was time to roll again. Okay, here we are for roll number 4. 4. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. probably the luckiest I have ever been in my life. So, I'm the luckiest person in the world. So it's very difficult to like line up your alphabet. And so I've gotten a point for A, a point for B, and now I've landed on C. So that's going to give me 3 points. I can guarantee you that most people in my book club probably don't have 3 points at this point in time, but I do. Or I will once I finish my C book. So again, aligning with finishing series, I decided to pick up Vilest Things by Chloe Gong, Chloe being for C. I really liked Mortal Longings. I gave it 4 stars when I read it. I had a special edition of it. I decided to keep the special edition of it. I really was very surprised. It was on my most surprising of the year. And this one is kind of taking a turn for me. I feel like the characters are not the same characters as they were in book 2. I'm 50% in as my AC is going to kick on, so I'll try to chat real quick here. I just feel like there's a departure from the excitement and from the characters from book 1. And I don't know why that is. I just don't find myself reaching to pick it up or reaching to want to read this, but I'm gonna complete it because I'm a completionist, and I will check in with you when I get done and when it's time for my next roll. So I finished Vilest Things, and my feelings did not change overall for this book. I feel like it was a 3-star read. I still felt disconnected from these characters. I feel like they were different than they were in book 1. So I don't know if this is suffering from middle book syndrome, because honestly I thought this was a duology, but it's not. It's a trilogy, so we will wait till the 3rd book comes out. I'll still read it, but overall I do think the quality went down from book 2 than book 1 in my eyes, and I think it may be because in book 1 we focused on this kind of competition and getting to know our characters, and in then book 2 just everything has to do with the ramifications of book 1, and there were some twists in book 2 that I feel like were just recycled over and over again, and so I wasn't a fan of that. So with that being said, 3 stars to Vilest Things. Then I rolled again. First of all, I was super lucky to get A, B, C right in a row. That earns me 3 points. So at the end of week 1, our team was in first place. Woo! Yay! But I rolled again. And at some point my luck had to run out, right? So here is my roll. Okay, I'm back. I'm on C. We're gonna roll. I'm gonna get 2. Oh my gosh, my luck has ended. I'm on a Y. 1, 2. That's a Y. Okay. So, as you can see, I had Y, and I could have went for a short book to fulfill this, but again, I want to stick to my goals in 2025, so we were going to continue to go with the flow and kind of do things that hit goals, and something that hit a goal of mine was Yumi and the Nightmare Painter by Brandon Sanderson, because it's a book I own, and this is the last secret project that I had to read, and I have finished it. I didn't update while I was reading the book because there was stomach viruses afoot and work afoot, and so I just did not have time to sit down and tell you guys my official thoughts. But I loved this. I gave it 5 stars. If you haven't read Yumi yet, we are following basically 2 characters from different places, we'll say, and I found that it was super hilarious because in some twisted way they have to kind of change out bodies, so they're in like different worlds where the cultures are different, and they had to switch bodies, and it was just really funny seeing some of these characters try to live in other worlds, and I did find myself laughing out loud at times. I also just love the story in general. Lots of fantasy, little romance, but it did have a romance in it, of course, by the cover. So overall, 5 stars, which it seems like a good thing because previous to this, I had only had 3 stars in February, so I'm super excited. Alright, so I'm going to end this vlog here, and tune in next week to see what I roll next.